Yeah, Kyle, I've often said about the College World Series, everyone says it's such a special event. And I try to think about why. And I think it's because it differs from the college football national championship game and the Super Bowl and the Final Four, in that just a regular person can afford to go to the game, right? You can walk up and buy a ticket, and it's not going to break the bank, and you don't have to save for 5 years to go and watch a team play for a championship. And I think that's what really sets it apart, and that's been really preserved even with the move to the new ballpark. But I'm just wondering if there's anything you'd like to see added to the College World Series to enhance it at all.
I mean, I think they continue to talk about potentially things inside the ballpark. Ballpark's over 10 years old now, which, I mean, it's not that old, but there's things that change over the course of 10 years. I think that'll continue to go. They could, we'll see if it comes together, but could have somebody that comes in town for a concert this year that's really cool within the baseball world, and also within the music world. But I think it'd be somebody that would draw, fan interest for sure, but I think it would be a really cool draw for the kids, just to be around that. The more you can, here's the hard thing, right? Is you're here to compete to start. And yes, you want to take in the whole experience, but you're here to compete. And so I think you also have to balance not trying to do too much from a team standpoint, and still allowing them to make sure that they get enough time to have a schedule and a routine that gets them ready to go when it's time to play. But I think you'll see some things inside the ballpark here in the next few years that will just continue to grow the experience, probably more fan-based than player-based. But I will tell you this, you hear a lot of complaints from the players. And they walk on that field. I've said this at time, but one of my favorite days of the year every year is the day that everybody practices.
Yeah.
Because you see some of these kids walk on this field that they've dreamed about being on for a long time. And those first moments are pretty cool.
Talking to Kyle Peterson, ESPN, here on 1620 The Zone. So, KP, kind of getting back to this, potential project in Omaha in the College World Series. And I know there's just certain things you probably can't detail us in on. But when you think of what needs to be commemorated, what needs to have a lot of attention paid to when it comes to something like that, when you're paying tribute and paying homage to the College World Series, is it the moments like, I always think of the Warren Morris walk-off home run. Is it those great games? Is it the great coaches? Is it the fans? Like what in your opinion, especially being an Omaha native and being able to cover it year in and year out, what would be the highest priority to you as far as what needs to be there front and center for something like this?
Well, I mean, I think the answer is yes.
Yeah.
I mean, the
Right.
moments are the ones that we remember the most. The players are some of the greatest players that have ever played the game. The coaches are the greatest coaches that have ever coached the game. The fan experience and to highlight some of the fan bases around the country that we all get to know here in Omaha. But ultimately, if you haven't followed the college game closely, you may not know well enough, and also create a space that can be utilized by the community too for events that can double as that becomes a cool spot if you're going to have, whatever it might be, whether it's a larger business meeting or a Christmas party or whatever else. So to have something that really, if you don't know anything about the College World Series and you spend a half hour, 45 minutes in there, you walk out of there going, man, I got to come back and go.
Yeah.
I have to see what happens in this town during that time of year. And that's the overarching goal, is to tell a story as quickly as we can, but to do it with those that have impacted this and honestly have a really big Omaha tilt to it. Because like you talked about earlier, I mean, yes, it is here, but it's been here almost 75 years. And the growth of this event is due in large part to the town itself and the people that have been committed to it.
Could you ever envision a situation where it leaves the series?
No, I hope not. I mean, I no, not now, but we've seen plenty of things change over time. I think that it's so ingrained here from an athletic department standpoint, from a fan standpoint, that I'd be surprised if it would ever leave. What is there, 9 or 10 years left, I think, in the current deal. So thankfully there's still some runway to figure out, but I'm sure those conversations will happen. I mean, Lord knows they happened last time. So, and I think that's why you got to make sure that you're continuing to do things that make it more appealing every year. And we hope that this is just one of those things that adds to it.
And, in the sake of all this, which I think sounds exciting, it seems very appropriate to have more of a College World Series type of tribute, however that looks, and you being obviously a driving force behind this, is there any type of timetable that you guys are kind of kicking around right now, or is this still kind of in the beginning stages of it?
No, it's beyond beginning stages. I mean, I think we've engaged a few other people to help us from a consultant standpoint that'll help kind of on the fundraising side, and then on the marketing side, we've got plenty of stuff pulled together. We have a location identified. So I would think, we're getting back together, I think, next Tuesday again, to really kick it off and get going. So I think the backbone of it is ready to go.
Yeah.
I thought it was important just to get it out there to say, hey, we do have something coming. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Ideally, we'll launch it, sometime in the next few months. There'll be a fundraise component to it, and then in a perfect world, you're under construction to some extent by the end of the year.
Well, that's really cool. That's we'll look forward to hearing more.